Hi, I'm Steve Kirsch, the CEO of TiEcon. All right, so let me give you a simple analogy. We used to have cell phones. I used to have this micro StarTAC cell phone. Everybody thought it was awesome at the time it came out. And then smartphones came out, and in 7 years, they just wiped out cell phones. So what we do is essentially the same thing, but we do it for banks. Okay? People get it. The banks get it when shown. They're ready to sign up after that. So anyway, there are two new rules in the move to open APIs for banking, and the two new rules are basically that developers are only going to write to one API, and it's not going to be yours. And every bank I go to, they have their API, and they think the developers will flock to their API, and they're wrong. The second thing, and so we solved that by having an API that can run on top of people's APIs, so developers only have to write to one API, which is pretty cool. So instead of writing to thousands, you write to one. And the second thing is, the second rule is that it's not about APIs, it's really about having a great platform. Right, the reason is Apple is the most valuable company in the world. They created a great platform for developers to write on. So that's what we do. We create this great platform for developers to write on to access the banking system. And so, and that's because if you just have open APIs, you don't solve any of the fundamental problems of banking. And so what we did is we said, okay, let's create a real entire ecosystem. So we give software to the banks, we give it to merchants, we give it to the consumers, we have cloud services. So we spent a lot of money. So we just raised $18.5 million in our Series A. And so we can do things like enable instant payments, enable frictionless B2C directly to your bank account. You can do frictionless P2P payments directly from your bank account to someone else's bank account anywhere in the world instantly, and so forth. And so this is when the technology is fully deployed, you can do some amazing things. It just makes life a lot better. And we do this without having to change any of the existing systems in the bank, because we're not going to go to a bank and say, hey, you're going to have to rip out Swift and replace with us. We just come in as the kind of the new option. And so this is the underlying technology. To be a little technical, since this is Silicon Valley. So to create a token, it's kind of like writing a check. Instead of writing it on paper and putting the terms on paper, you write it digitally with terms and conditions. And then you give it to me, I sign it, give it to my bank, I get a receipt from the bank. It's a really short identifier like HSBC 123, which means go to HSBC and it's receipt number 123, and that has all the terms and conditions for the token. So then someone like Amazon could take that token ID, that HSBC 123, digitally sign it with their digital signature and say, I want to redeem it for €4 and present it to HSBC, which pushes the payment and so forth. It all happens instantly. So it's pretty cool. We have a number of things that we do that's very unique. Bankers love it. We charge banks about $1 million or so a piece, and they say, what's the catch? Like, wow, this is too good to be true, which is great. So TiEcon's essentially a money machine. We pay banks. We buy transactions for banks for about 20 basis points. We sell it from anywhere from 40 to 200 or 300 basis points. So we make a fortune on every transaction. Here's a typical customer of ours. I won't say who it is. They do over $3 trillion a year in payments. Just that one company. If we just make 2 basis points, just 2 basis points, that is $600 million a year from one customer. So that's pretty cool. My team, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had 6 startups previously, billions in terms of market cap, in terms of those companies. My co-founder was the former CTO for Citibank. They're a small bank in New York. And our current CTO is the architect of Square's payment system. Finally, I gave a talk for a room full of people about a year ago at EBA Day, and there are like 1,200 payment specialists from all the banks in Europe. And at the beginning of the talk, I said, do you think this is the best thing ever to happen to banking? And about 2 people raised their hand, my mother and someone else. And by the end of the talk, then I had half the people in the room agreeing with this statement. So that's pretty significant. And that's our story. Thank you.